The great doors of the Galactic Council chambers opened with a deep hum that vibrated through the floor. Ambassador Lisa Martinez stepped forward, her black diplomatic uniform crisp and clean. She walked past the massive security checkpoint where dozens of alien beings waited in long lines. Lisa watched as each species went through the same ritual. The tall, insect-like Mentari extended their arms, and security officers carefully removed the sharp, blade-like claws that grew from their wrists. The claws went into special containers marked with warning symbols. Next came the Vulfan delegates, their purple skin gleaming under the bright lights. They stood still while medical technicians carefully extracted the venomous spines that lined their backs. Each spine was placed in a sealed tube and locked away. The Krillian ambassador approached the scanner next. Her blue-scaled hands glowed with electricity as the security team used special equipment to drain the plasma energy from the organs in her palms. The process took several minutes, and Lisa could see the alien's discomfort as her natural bioelectric abilities were temporarily disabled. Every species had something to surrender. The Zephyrians had their razor-sharp tail spikes removed. The Gorlan delegation submitted to having their acid-producing glands temporarily sealed. Even the peaceful Nexari had to allow technicians to bind their powerful crushing appendages with special restraints. Lisa walked past all of this without stopping. She simply showed her identification card to the human security guard and walked through the metal detector. It beeped once, confirming she carried no artificial weapons, and she continued into the chamber. No one searched her. No one removed anything from her body. No one asked her to surrender any natural weapons, because humans had none to surrender. Behind her, she heard whispers starting among the waiting aliens. The sounds were strange to human ears. Clicks, whistles, electronic buzzes, but the universal translator in her ear converted them to words she could understand. Why does the human not give up her weapons? She walks through like she owns the place. This is not fair. We all must follow the same rules. Crixval, the senior Zephyrian delegate, stepped away from the security line. His long, serpentine body moved with fluid grace as he approached the security station. The spikes that normally extended from his tail had been removed, leaving him looking somehow incomplete. "Chief Thompson," Crixval said to the human security officer. His voice came out as a series of clicks and hisses, but the translator made it sound like accented English. "I must ask about this situation. Every species must surrender our natural defenses before entering the sacred chambers. Yet humans walk through unchanged. Why is this permitted?" Jake Thompson, a tall man with graying hair and kind eyes, looked up from his security console. He had been in charge of council security for 15 years and had answered this question many times before. Still, he always tried to be patient with newcomers. "Humans are granted special permission under Council Regulation 47B, Jake said calmly. "They are exempt from weapons surrender requirements. But why?" Crixval's voice rose, causing several other aliens to turn and listen. "The rules exist for the safety of all delegates. If humans carry weapons into the chamber, how can we trust that negotiations will remain peaceful?" Jake smiled slightly. "Humans don't carry weapons into the chamber, Delegate Crixval. They simply don't need to surrender anything." This answer only made Crixval more agitated. His remaining tail tip twitched with frustration. "That makes no sense. Every intelligent species has evolved some form of natural defense. What do humans possess that they hide from us?" "Nothing," Jake said. "That's the point." Lisa had stopped near the chamber entrance, listening to the conversation. She found herself just as curious as the aliens. In her 3 years as ambassador, she had never questioned why she walked through security so easily. It had simply been explained to her as standard procedure for human delegates. More aliens began to gather around the security station. Dr. Susan Clark, the veteran Human Council member who was attending her final session before retirement, arrived at that moment. Like Lisa, she walked straight through the checkpoint without stopping. The sight of another human bypassing security sent a ripple of concerned murmurs through the crowd. "2 humans now," observed Quindar. the coordinator species representative, both carrying unknown weapons into our most sacred meeting place. We carry no weapons, Lisa said, turning to face the growing crowd of aliens. I promise you, we have nothing hidden. Then submit to the same security procedures as the rest of us, demanded Vex Prime, a ravager whose toxic glands had been sealed with bright yellow medical tape. Prove that you carry no natural weapons. Lisa looked at Jake Thompson, unsure how to respond. She had been trained in diplomatic protocol, but this situation was new to her. Jake stepped forward to help. The human delegates are following all applicable security procedures, he said firmly. Council regulations are clear on this matter. Regulations? Can be wrong, Crixval hissed. They can be changed. We demand an explanation before we proceed with today's session. The crowd of aliens grew larger. Representatives from a dozen different species gathered around the security checkpoint, all talking at once. The universal translators struggled to keep up with the multiple conversations, creating a confusing babble of voices. This is discrimination against non-human species. Humans think they are special. We should refuse to enter the chamber until this matter is resolved. Security procedures exist for everyone's protection. Dr. Clark approached Lisa with a concerned expression. What's happening here, Ambassador Martinez? They want to know why we don't have to surrender weapons like everyone else, Lisa explained. Honestly, I'm curious about that myself. Do you know why we get special treatment? Dr. Clark frowned. I've been on the council for 20 years, and I've never thought to question it. It's just always been this way for humans. The situation was becoming more tense by the minute. Several alien delegates had stopped going through security and were joining the protest. Jake Thompson spoke into his communication device, calling for backup. We need Council Archivist Alex Rogers down. Here immediately, he said. And please inform the Council President that we may have a diplomatic incident developing. Lisa realized that what should have been a routine diplomatic session was turning into something much more complicated. The aliens weren't going to let this matter drop, and she was beginning to understand that she couldn't answer their questions because she didn't know the answers herself. Why were humans different? What made them special in the eyes of the Council? And why had no one ever explained this to her before? As more security personnel arrived and the crowd of frustrated aliens grew larger, Lisa knew that today's session would not proceed as planned. Instead, it seemed like humanity's unique status in the Galactic Council was about to be challenged in a way it never had been before. The answers, whatever they were, would have to come from someone who understood the history behind the rules. Someone who knew why humans alone were trusted to enter the council chambers without surrendering anything at all. Alex Rogers hurried down the long corridor toward the council chambers. His arms were full of data pads and old files. As the council archivist, he had been studying galactic history for over 20 years. Today, he would need to use all that knowledge to solve a growing diplomatic crisis. When Alex arrived at the security checkpoint, he found chaos. Nearly 50 alien delegates stood in angry groups, refusing to enter the chamber. Their voices created a loud buzz of complaints and demands. Security officers tried to keep order, but the situation was getting worse by the minute. Jake Thompson waved Alex over to a quiet corner. We need answers, and we need them fast. The aliens are demanding to know why humans get special treatment. Some are threatening to leave the council if we don't explain. Alex nodded and activated his main data pad. I'll need to go back to the beginning. To humanity's first contact with the Federation 50 years ago. Lisa Martinez and Dr. Clark joined them, along with several alien delegates who wanted to hear the explanation. Alex cleared his throat and began to tell the story that few beings remembered anymore. It started with Captain Ryan Brooks and the exploration ship New Horizon, Alex said. They were Earth's first deep space mission, looking for signs of intelligent life. What they found changed everything. Alex touched his datapad, and a holographic image appeared in the air. It showed a sleek human ship floating in space next to a much larger alien vessel. The alien ship had strange curves and surfaces that seemed to shift color in the light. The coordinator ship found the new horizon near the edge of what we now call Federation space. Captain Brooks was in command with Chief Science Officer Nancy Bell and a crew of 40 humans. They had no idea they were about to make first contact with an advanced galactic civilization. The hologram changed to show the inside of the coordinator ship. Strange beings with multiple arms and crystalline skin moved through corridors that seemed to bend and flow like water. Commander Prex 9 of the coordinators followed standard Federation protocol, Alex continued. He contacted the human ship and demanded that all crew members surrender their weapons before any meeting could take place. This was the same rule that had been used for first contact with every other species. Lisa leaned forward with interest. What happened next? Captain Brooks agreed immediately, Alex said. He and his team gathered every weapon they had. Laser pistols, plasma rifles, combat knives, even small tools that could be used as weapons. They put everything in containers and sent them over to the coordinator ship. Crixval, the Zephyrian delegate, made a sound of approval. Good. They followed proper procedure. But then something unexpected happened, Alex said. When the human delegation boarded the coordinator ship for the first meeting, Commander Prex 9 decided to demonstrate Federation power. He wanted to make sure the humans understood how advanced the galaxy's civilizations were. The hologram showed a large meeting room filled with beings from different species. Each alien demonstrated their natural abilities. Creatures with claws extended them to show their sharpness. Others generated electricity or released small amounts of venom into collection tubes. Every species that had joined the Federation had reacted the same way to this demonstration, Alex explained. They showed fear or tried to run away or immediately began planning how to defend themselves against these natural weapons. Some even tried to figure out how to copy the abilities for their own use. Dr. Clark frowned. But humans reacted differently? Alex smiled and nodded. Very differently. Dr. Nancy Bell was fascinated. She asked if she could study the biological mechanisms that created these abilities. She wanted to understand how evolution had developed such amazing adaptations. Captain Brooks complimented the aliens on their incredible diversity. The alien delegates listening to the story looked confused. Quindar spoke up. They were not afraid? Not at all, Alex said. The humans saw the claws, venom, electricity, and acid as amazing examples of natural evolution. They didn't see weapons. They saw biology. Alex touched his datapad again. The hologram showed Captain Brooks shaking hands with Commander Prex 9 while Dr. Bell examined samples through a microscope. Dr. Bell spent 3 days studying samples from different Federation species. She wrote detailed reports about how each adaptation worked. The humans were genuinely excited to learn about alien biology. They asked questions about diet, environment, and evolutionary pressures. This had never happened before, Alex continued. Every other species saw natural weapons as threats to be feared or advantages to be gained. Humans saw them as interesting biological functions. Vex Prime, the Ravager. Delegates sounded skeptical. Surely they must have been planning military applications. All species think about warfare. That's what Commander Prex 9 thought too, Alex said. So he decided to test the humans. He set up scenarios where they would be exposed to different types of alien abilities under controlled conditions. He wanted to see if humans would eventually show their true nature. The hologram changed to show various test scenarios. Humans worked alongside aliens in laboratories, explored alien environments, and participated in cultural exchanges. The tests went on for months, Alex said. In every situation, humans responded with curiosity and attempts at cooperation. When a Mentari accidentally cut a human researcher with his claws, the human immediately asked if the Mentari was hurt and offered to help clean the wound. Lisa shook her head in amazement. They weren't concerned about being injured? The human said. That accidents happen when you're working with sharp tools, Alex replied. He didn't see the claws as weapons that had attacked him. He saw them as tools that had slipped during work. The breakthrough came during an incident that Alex displayed in the hologram. A young human diplomat named Chris Parker was visiting a Ravager delegation when one of the aliens had a medical emergency. The Ravager's own toxic glands had malfunctioned, poisoning him. Chris Parker didn't hesitate, Alex said. He immediately called for help and worked with the ship's medical team to save the Ravager's life. He risked exposure to deadly toxins to help a being he had just met. In the hologram, they could see Chris holding pressure bandages while alien doctors worked to save their colleague. His hands were protected only by thin medical gloves. The Ravagers were shocked, Alex continued. Their toxic abilities had evolved specifically as weapons against predators. No other species had ever willingly exposed themselves to Ravager toxins to provide medical aid. Dr. Helen Foster, the ship's doctor in the recording, was shown working alongside alien medical staff. She studied the toxin's effects and suggested treatment options based on human medical knowledge. Dr. Foster's report was the key to everything, Alex said. She noted that humans seemed to naturally understand that biological adaptations were not inherently weapons. They were biological functions that could be used for different purposes depending on the situation. The alien delegates were quiet now, listening carefully to every word. The report said that humans were the first species to see past the weapon potential of natural abilities, Alex continued. They saw claws as tools for gripping and climbing. They saw venom as a chemical defense system. They saw bioelectricity as a form of communication and sensory enhancement. Alex paused and looked around at the gathered beings. The Federation realized that humans had something no other species possessed. They could interact with naturally armed beings without feeling threatened or defensive. This made them perfect mediators and peacekeepers. So the special rule was created, Jake Thompson added. Humans were granted the right to enter council chambers without surrendering weapons, because they didn't see natural abilities as weapons in the first place. Lisa finally understood. We're not allowed to be unarmed. We're naturally unarmed in our thinking, Alex nodded. Exactly. And that unique perspective made humans invaluable to the Federation. In a galaxy where every species is born with natural weapons, someone needed to be able to see past those weapons to the beings underneath. Alex Rogers continued his story as more aliens gathered around to listen. The security checkpoint had become an impromptu history lesson, with delegates sitting on benches and leaning against walls to hear about humanity's past. After the first contact went so well, the Federation Council decided to run more tests, Alex said. They wanted to understand exactly what made humans different. Admiral Kate Williams was put in charge of the testing program. The hologram showed a stern-looking woman in a blue uniform standing beside a tall alien with silver skin. Admiral Williams worked with Federation evaluator Quindar to design a series of situations. They wanted to see how humans would react when faced with truly dangerous alien abilities. Lisa recognized the alien's name. Quindar? Is that the same coordinator who serves on the council now? The very same, Alex nodded. He was much younger then, but he already understood that humans might be special. The tests they designed were meant to push human reactions to their limits. The hologram changed to show a large space station with multiple sections. They built a special testing facility called Integration Station. Humans would be placed in different scenarios with various alien species to see how they handled potentially threatening situations. Alex touched his data pad and the image zoomed in on one section of the station. The first test was simple. They put human volunteers in a room with Mentari warriors during their traditional combat display. Mentari fighters would extend their claws and perform ceremonial battle dances. In the hologram, they could see humans sitting calmly while insect-like. Aliens moved around them with blade-sharp appendages flashing in the light. The humans watched with obvious interest rather than fear. Every other species had reacted to Mentari combat displays with terror or aggression, Alex explained. But the human volunteers asked questions about the cultural significance of the dances. They wanted to know about Mentari history and traditions. Dr. Clark smiled. That sounds like humans. We always want to understand the culture behind the actions. The second test was more challenging, Alex continued. They exposed humans to Volthan intimidation rituals. Volthans would approach the humans with their venomous spines fully extended and make threatening gestures. The hologram showed purple-skinned aliens towering over much smaller humans. The spines on their backs were spread wide, dripping with toxic substances. The humans remained seated and calm. Again, humans reacted with curiosity rather than fear, Alex said. One volunteer, a biologist named Dr. Karen Price, asked if the venom was related to their diet or if it served other biological functions besides defense. Vex Prime, the Ravager delegate, looked puzzled. Did they not understand the danger they were in? They understood perfectly, Alex replied. But they also understood that the aliens weren't actually attacking them. They saw the difference between a biological capability and the intent to use it harmfully. The tests continued for months. Alex showed them scenes of humans interacting with dozens of different alien species. In every case, the humans responded with scientific interest, cultural curiosity, or attempts at communication. The breakthrough came during what they called the emergency response test, Alex said. A young diplomat named Chris Parker was part of this experiment. The hologram focused on a man in his 20s with brown hair and friendly eyes. He was sitting in what looked like a conference room with several alien delegates. Chris was meeting with a Ravager cultural group when something went wrong, Alex explained. One of the Ravagers, an elder named Vex Prime, began having a medical emergency. The current Vex Prime in the audience made a surprise sound. That was my grandfather. I remember hearing about this incident when I was young. Your grandfather's toxic glands were malfunctioning, Alex continued. The toxins were building up in his system instead of being properly released. It was a rare but deadly condition for Ravagers. In the hologram, they could see the elderly. Ravager collapsed to the floor, his skin turning dark colors. The other Ravagers in the room backed away in fear, knowing that their elder might release a deadly cloud of toxins at any moment. Chris Parker did something no other species had ever done, Alex said. He moved toward the sick Ravager instead of away from him. The hologram showed Chris kneeling beside the fallen alien, calling for medical help on his communication device. The ship's doctor, Dr. Helen Foster, arrived quickly with a medical team. Dr. Foster had studied Ravager biology during the earlier cultural exchanges, Alex explained. She knew that the toxic buildup could be relieved if they could help the elder release the toxins safely. But it would require someone to stay close and help guide the process. Lisa watched in amazement as the hologram showed Chris and Dr. Foster working together. They helped position the sick Ravager so his toxin glands could drain properly. Both humans wore only basic protective gear. The other Ravagers couldn't help, Alex said. Their own natural immunity meant they couldn't tell how dangerous the toxin levels were becoming. But humans could monitor the situation because they weren't naturally adapted to deal with Ravager toxins. Dr. Foster was shown taking readings with medical equipment while Chris held the elder Ravager steady. The process took nearly an hour, with both humans at risk of exposure to lethal toxins. When it was over, Elder Vex Prime had fully recovered. Alex said, but something more important had happened. The Ravager delegation was completely changed by what they had witnessed. The current Vex Prime spoke up. My grandfather told this story many times. He said that Chris Parker and Dr. Foster saved his life by treating his natural weapons as medical symptoms instead of threats. Alex nodded. That incident was reported throughout the Federation. It proved that humans had a unique ability to see past the weapon potential of natural biological functions. The hologram showed Admiral Williams and Evaluator Quindar reviewing the test results in their office. Both looked amazed by what they were reading. Admiral Williams wrote in her final report that humans possess something she called biological blindness, Alex said. They were blind to the weapon nature of natural adaptations. They saw only the biological function. But how is that possible? Asked Crixval. Surely humans must have some survival instincts. They do, Alex replied. But human survival instincts are different. Humans evolved without natural weapons, so they learned to survive through cooperation and tool use. When they see natural weapons on other species, they don't trigger the same threat response. Alex showed them data charts and graphs from the testing period. The tests revealed that humans could work effectively with any Federation species, because they didn't feel threatened by natural abilities. This made them perfect for diplomatic and peacekeeping roles. Dr. Clark looked thoughtful. So we became valuable to the Federation because we couldn't see what other species considered threatening. Exactly, Alex said. In a galaxy where every species is naturally armed, someone needed to be able to communicate without feeling constantly threatened. Humans filled that role perfectly. The hologram showed the final test results being presented to the full Federation Council 50 years ago. Alien delegates from dozens of species listened as Admiral Williams explained humanity's unique capabilities. The Council voted unanimously to grant humans special status, Alex said. Not because they were weak or defenseless, but because their lack of natural weapons gave them a perspective that no other species could achieve. Lisa was beginning to understand the bigger picture. We weren't given special treatment because we're harmless. We were given special treatment because we can see others as harmless when they're not trying to be harmful. That's right, Alex. Confirmed. Humans became the Federation's mediators, peacekeepers, and diplomats because they could interact with naturally armed species without triggering defensive responses. Jake Thompson checked his security console. The council session was supposed to start an hour ago. Do you think this explanation will satisfy the delegates? Alex looked around at the gathered aliens. Most seemed to be thinking carefully about what they had heard. The angry voices from earlier had quieted to thoughtful murmurs. There's more to the story, Alex said. The real test of human abilities came later, during a crisis that threatened the entire Federation. That's when we learned just how valuable humanity's unique perspective really was. Alex Rogers paused to check his datapad before continuing the story. The alien delegates had grown quiet, all listening carefully to understand humanity's history with the Federation. 20 years after the first test, the real proof of human value came during the border crisis, Alex said. It was the darkest time in Federation history. The hologram changed to show star maps with red warning zones marked across several sectors. A terrorist group called the Pure had been attacking Federation colonies. They believed that only species with natural weapons deserved to exist in the galaxy. Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. They were targeting species without natural defenses? Worse, Alex replied. They were using each species' natural weapons against them. The Pure had developed biological weapons that turned natural abilities into deadly problems. The hologram showed images of destroyed colonies and hospitals, full of sick aliens. The attacks started small. A Mentari colony found that their claws wouldn't stop growing. The claws kept extending until they couldn't use their hands anymore. Crixval made a sound of horror. That would be like a living nightmare for any Mentari. Then the Volthan settlements were hit, Alex continued. Their venomous spines began producing toxins constantly. The Volthans couldn't control the release, and they were poisoning themselves and everyone around them. Dr. Clark shook her head sadly. They were using biology as a weapon. The worst attack came on the Krillian homeworld, Alex said. The Pure released a virus that caused bioelectric organs to discharge randomly. Millions of Krillians lost control of their electrical abilities. Their own bodies became dangerous to them. The hologram showed the chaos that followed. Entire cities were evacuated as naturally armed species became unable to control their biological weapons. Hospitals overflowed with aliens whose own bodies had turned against them. Security Director Paul Mitchell was put in charge of the Federation response, Alex said. He worked with investigators from every species to track down the Pure and stop the attacks. The image showed a tall human man with gray hair examining evidence in a laboratory. Around him, alien scientists worked with samples and data screens. Director Mitchell made a disturbing discovery, Alex continued. The biological weapons were designed to affect every known Federation species except one. The Pure had never bothered to develop a human-specific version. Vex Prime leaned forward with interest. Why not humans? Because the Pure considered humanity's lack of natural weapons to be proof of weakness, Alex explained. They thought humans were already inferior and didn't need to be attacked. The hologram showed intercepted communications from the Pure. Their leader, a multi-species fanatic, spoke about creating a galaxy where only properly evolved beings could survive. Agent Sarah Davis volunteered to go undercover and infiltrate the Pure, Alex said. She was perfect for the mission because she appeared harmless to the terrorists? In the hologram, they could see a young woman with blonde hair sitting in what looked like a secret meeting. Around her, aliens from various species planned their next attacks. Sarah spent months with the Pure, learning their plans, Alex continued. What she discovered was terrifying. They intended to release a supervirus that would affect every Federation species at once. The terrorist hideout was shown in detail. Laboratory equipment filled rooms where captured aliens were being used for experiments. The Pure scientists were developing more and more deadly biological weapons. The supervirus was designed to cause each species' natural weapons to turn completely against their own bodies, Alex said. Montari claws would grow inward, piercing vital organs. Vulcan spines would release toxins directly into their bloodstreams. Krillian electrical organs would discharge inside their bodies. Lisa felt sick imagining such horrible deaths that would kill millions of beings. Billions, Alex corrected. The virus was designed to spread through normal contact. Every naturally armed species in the galaxy would be affected. Sarah Davis was shown sending secret messages back to Federation headquarters. Her reports revealed the full scope of the Pure's plans and the location of their main laboratory. Director Mitchell organized the response team, Alex said. But they faced an impossible problem. How do you fight terrorists who have weapons that turn your own body against you? The hologram showed Federation ships surrounding the Pure's asteroid base. Inside, the terrorists were preparing to release their supervirus into the galaxy's trade routes. The answer came from Detective Ray Collins and his human security team, Alex said. They realized that humans were the only species that could safely enter the Pure's laboratory. In the recording, they could see human officers in protective suits moving through corridors filled with biological weapons. Around them, alien security forces had to stay back because their own natural abilities made them vulnerable to the attacks. The Pure had filled their base with weapons designed to trigger natural biological responses, Alex explained. Any species with claws would find them growing uncontrollably. Any species with venom would start producing toxins. Any species with electrical abilities would begin discharging energy. But the humans moved through the base unaffected. They had no natural weapons to be turned against them. Detective Collins led his team to the main laboratory, Alex continued. They found the Pure scientists preparing to launch the supervirus. The terrorists were wearing special suits that protected them from their own weapons. The final battle was shown in dramatic detail. The Pure fought desperately to complete their mission while the human security team worked to stop them. Other Federation forces waited outside, unable to help because of the biological weapons filling the air. Commander Lisa Rodriguez coordinated the operation from the command ship, Alex said. She watched as her human colleagues did something no other species could do. The humans were shown working together to shut down the laboratory equipment. They moved through clouds of toxins and fields of electrical discharge that would have been deadly to any naturally armed species. The breakthrough came when Dr. Martinez, a human medical officer, realized something important, Alex said. The biological weapons weren't just attacks. They were medical conditions that could be treated. In the hologram, Dr. Martinez was shown working with the Pure's own equipment. Instead of destroying it, he was using it to develop treatments for the aliens who had already been affected by the weapons. While Detective Collins and his team fought the terrorists, Dr. Martinez worked to save their victims, Alex continued. He used the Pure's research to create antidotes for each species. Biological weapon effects. The human medical officer was shown treating Montari with overgrown claws. helping Volthans control their toxic spines and stabilizing Krillians whose electrical organs were malfunctioning. Dr. Martinez could help them because he saw their natural weapons as biological systems that had been damaged, Alex explained. He wasn't afraid of their abilities. He understood them as medical symptoms that needed treatment. The crisis ended when the human team successfully destroyed the Pure's supervirus and captured their leaders. But the real victory came in the weeks that followed. The treatments Dr. Martinez developed saved millions of lives, Alex said. But more importantly, they proved that humans had a unique ability to help other species overcome the weaponization of their own biology. Federation medical teams were shown working with human doctors to treat the victims of the Pure's attacks. The humans served as intermediaries, helping alien doctors understand how to treat conditions involving natural weapons. Admiral Kate Williams wrote the final report on the border crisis, Alex said. She concluded that humans were not just valuable as diplomats and peacekeepers. They were essential for the medical and scientific advancement of the entire Federation. The report appeared in the hologram, showing charts and data about human contributions to Federation medicine and science. Humans could study natural weapons without fear, Alex explained. They could develop treatments for biological weapon effects. They could help species understand their own biology from a neutral perspective. Lisa began to understand the full scope of humanity's role in the galaxy. We're not just diplomats, we're like medical translators for natural weapons? Exactly, Alex said. In a galaxy where every species has natural weapons, humans provide the objective viewpoint needed to understand those weapons as biological systems rather than threats. Jake Thompson checked his security console again. This explains why the council chamber's rule exists, but will it satisfy the delegates? Alex looked around at the gathered aliens. Their expressions had changed from anger to thoughtful consideration. There's one more part to this story, Alex said. The real reason why humans are allowed to remain unarmed in the council chambers. It's not about weapons at all. The security checkpoint had become completely quiet. Every alien delegate listened carefully as Alex Rogers prepared to finish his story. Ambassador Lisa Martinez felt her heart beating faster, knowing that she was about to learn something that would change how she understood her role in the galaxy. The final answer came from Council Elder Zeph Prime, Alex said. He is one of the oldest beings in the Federation, old enough to remember when humans first joined the Council. A very ancient alien slowly approached the group. His crystalline skin was clouded with age, and his multiple arms moved carefully as he walked. When he spoke, his voice was like wind through metal. I have listened to Archivist Rogers tell our history, Zeph Prime said. But history is only part of truth. The complete truth is deeper than stories about tests and crises. The elderly being looked at each human present, then turned to address all the gathered delegates. When humans first came to us, we believed. We understood what made them different, Zeph Prime continued. We thought it was their lack of natural weapons. We thought it was their curious nature. We thought it was their willingness to help others. He paused, his ancient eyes reflecting. The light. We were wrong about all of these things. Lisa stepped forward. Then what makes humans different, Elder Zeph Prime? The question itself shows the answer, the elder replied. Every other species asks, how can we protect ourselves from humans? Or what advantage do humans have over us? But humans ask what? Makes us different? They seek to understand, not to gain advantage. Dr. Clark looked confused. I don't understand what you mean. Zeph Prime gestured toward the security checkpoint where aliens were still waiting to surrender their natural weapons. Watch them, he said. Every species sees the security process as giving up part of themselves. They surrender their claws, their venom, their electrical abilities. They feel weakened by this process. The group turned to observe the aliens going through security. Each being looked uncomfortable as their natural weapons were removed and stored away. Now watch humans, Zeph Prime said. Lisa and Dr. Clark walked through the security checkpoint again. They moved easily, showing their identification and passing through the scanners without any discomfort or sense of loss. Humans do not feel weakened by the process, Zeph Prime observed, because they are not surrendering part of themselves. They are simply following a reasonable safety procedure. Jake Thompson nodded slowly. That's true. We've never seen humans act like they're giving up something important when they go through security. But why is that important? Asked Crixvow. What does it matter how we feel about security procedures? Judge Patricia King, who had been quietly observing the entire discussion, stepped forward. She was an older human woman who served as a legal observer for human interests in the council. I think I understand, she said. It's about what we consider to be part of our identity. Zeph Prime made a sound of approval. The human legal observer sees clearly. Yes, it is about identity. Judge King addressed the gathered aliens. For your species, natural weapons are part of who you are. When you surrender them, you feel like you're giving up part of your essential self. That creates stress and defensive thinking. Exactly, Zeph Prime confirmed. When beings feel that their identity is threatened, they cannot think clearly about cooperation and peace. They focus on protecting themselves instead of working together. Alex Rogers checked his datapad and found additional information. There are studies about this. Species that feel their natural abilities are threatened show increased aggressive responses and decreased willingness to compromise. Lisa was beginning to see the bigger picture. So the security rule isn't really about weapons at all? No, Zeph Prime said. It is about creating the right mental state for peaceful discussion. When beings feel safe and unthreatened, they can focus on solving problems instead of protecting themselves. General Frank Cooper, a retired military officer who had been quietly listening, spoke up. In human military training, we learn that the most dangerous enemy is one who feels cornered and desperate. But we also learn that the most effective ally is one who feels secure and valued. Zeph Prime turned toward the general with interest. The human military leader understands. Yes, security is about creating the conditions for cooperation. Dr. Clark looked thoughtful. But humans don't need those conditions because we don't have natural weapons to feel threatened about. More than that, Zephyr Prime replied. Humans have learned to separate their tools from their identity. A human with a weapon does not think, I am a weapon. They think, I am a person who happens to be carrying a tool. Judge King nodded. That's why humans can be trusted to remain unarmed by choice rather than force. We understand the difference between having the ability to cause harm and choosing to cause harm. But what about the rule? Vex Prime asked. Why are humans allowed to skip the security procedures entirely? Zeph Prime smiled, an expression that looked strange on his crystalline features. That is where the truth becomes clear. Humans are not allowed to skip security procedures. They are following different security procedures. This statement confused everyone, including the humans. I don't understand, Lisa said. We walk right through the checkpoint? Yes, Zeph Prime replied. And what do you give up when you do that? Lisa thought carefully. We don't give up anything. We don't have natural weapons to surrender. Wrong, Zeph Prime said gently. You surrender the most powerful weapon of all. The ancient being looked around at all the gathered delegates, both human and alien. Humans surrender their assumptions, he said. When you enter the council chambers, you give up the assumption that other beings are threats. You give up the assumption that natural weapons are intended to harm you. You give up the assumption that differences make us enemies. General Cooper's eyes widened with understanding. We disarm our minds instead of our bodies. Precisely, Zeph Prime confirmed. Every other species enters the chambers thinking about the weapons they have surrendered and feeling vulnerable. Humans enter the chambers thinking about the cooperation they hope to achieve. Alex Rogers found more data on his pad. The psychological studies confirm this. Human brain scans show that they enter council sessions focused on problem-solving areas of thinking. Other species show activity in threat assessment and defensive planning areas. Lisa felt like everything was finally making sense. So we're not special because we lack weapons. We're special because we can choose not to see others as threatening. That is why humans became the galaxy's peacekeepers, Zeph Prime said. Not because you are harmless, but because you can see others as harmless when they choose to be. Judge King asked the question that completed the understanding. So the rule exists? Because someone needs to enter the chambers without defensive thinking? Yes, Zeph Prime replied. In negotiations where every species feels vulnerable because they have surrendered their natural defenses, someone must be present who does not feel vulnerable at all. Jake Thompson looked at his security console and made an announcement. Oh, delegates, please take your seats in the council chambers. Today's session will now begin. As the aliens began moving toward the chamber entrance, they looked at the humans differently than before. The anger and suspicion from earlier had been replaced by something that looked like respect and understanding. Lisa walked beside Dr. Clark as they entered the great chamber together. I never realized the responsibility we carry, Lisa said. Quietly, we're not just representing humanity. We're representing the possibility of peace itself, Dr. Clark nodded. Every time we choose to see cooperation instead of conflict, we're proving that it's possible for the galaxy to work together. As they took their seats for the council session, Lisa looked around at the hundreds of alien delegates filling the chamber. Each being had surrendered their natural weapons to be here, trusting in the security procedures and the promise of peaceful discussion, but humans had surrendered something even more important. They had surrendered the right to see any of these beings as enemies. Ambassador Lisa Martinez understood now why humans were the only species allowed to remain unarmed in the council chambers. It wasn't about weapons at all. It was about trust, understanding, and the choice to see the best in others rather than the worst. In a galaxy where every species was born with natural weapons, humanity's greatest strength was their ability to see past those weapons to the thinking beings underneath. That perspective made them not just diplomats or peacekeepers, but guardians of the hope that different species could coexist in peace. The council session began, and for the first time in her career, Lisa truly understood her role in making that peace possible.